Hello, welcome to Network. My name is Phumelele Zondo with your technology and social media news. It's SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It's News Network at sabc.co.za on email. I'm in Hluhluwe today and I will tell you more about a tech initiative that I'm here to find out about later in the program. This week, our Twitter poll is asking you if you still read newspapers. This as you're finding out about the death of newspapers and the rise of online in South Africa. The Daily Sun has apparently dropped 89% in the last 10 years. Results of that are coming up later in the program. Firstly, here's what's coming up today. We tell you about why Meta is in trouble with the Competition Commission. We give you more on those tech skills for kids in under-resourced areas. And in our conversation, we chat about your data security. This, as one reports, as South Africa is now 6th in the world. The Competition Commission has found that Meta, formerly known as Facebook Inc., has been involved in some anti-competitive behavior in South Africa, and they've sent their matter to prosecution. As South Africa has been going through the COVID-19 pandemic, it's been essential for government to communicate with citizens. They used various platforms that include GovChat, a startup service that uses WhatsApp.
GovChat is a private company that then innovated on top of that Facebook technology. In other words, using the data that Facebook has, innovating and created value out of that data. And this is how they did it. They packaged that data, sliced it and communicated it to citizens so citizens can easily access it.
WhatsApp is owned by Meta. Meta owns Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram. Government then said Meta threatened to kick GovChat out of its business service, something the Competition Commission has said is anti-competitive behavior.
So we come in to say, Facebook, you are dominant, and the GovChat cannot easily replicate or obtain a similar facility from elsewhere. So you are an essential facility and you can't exclude them from the market.
Meta says GovChat onboarded companies that had not gone through their rigorous process to be on the platform. The Competition Commission has, however, referred the issue for prosecution, and they want Meta to be fined 10% of their turnover. Another startup that works with government and municipalities is Let's Talk. Its founder says this case should open our eyes to where data that government is processing ends up.
We all know that the data does not reside in South Africa, first of all. So also when it comes to the compliance with POPI, this data does not comply with with POPI, or the system does not comply with POPI because, first of all this data, this personal data is sitting in somewhere outside of the country, which is one of the biggest criteria with POPI. So that one is compliant.
Mwebise Duna says a government needs to look for alternative local platforms to assist startups that they partner with for such services.
WhatsApp can decide to switch off all their services for us in South Africa. Then what's going to happen? We're going to be stuck between limbering with trying to find a way to engage with government. So, alternative solutions are here, such as Let's Talk app.
GovChat has welcomed the ruling. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed the biggest kind of digital divide in South Africa. Kids in urban centers, most of the kids who go to private schools, were able to learn from home. But kids in rural areas like Hluhluwe, where I am today, were not able to do this. But now there are initiatives that are trying to assist kids who are in Hluhluwe and other rural areas, and also kids on the outskirts in urban centers, to learn and to also get some basic tech skills.
3 to 4 years back, I started science clubs, where we actually assist learners to understand a better, to have a better understanding in the math, science and technology. So what we do with them, we give them projects like robotics, science debates, with this spelling bee, but basically science. So as much as now we are launching the school, so it's us saying, here's your science center, because the school is not just a school, it's also a science center where they get to do experiments.
To Hluhluwe, what brings us is to expose it. Because remember, there's so much minimal knowledge in this industry. Because when you ask a child now, when you ask them, why are you doing science? He or she will tell you, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse. Not saying that that is bad, but they need to also be exposed to different careers in science and understand the mandate of science, the broadness of science.
We give trainings to the young ones from ECD to grade 7 with robotics and coding. And then we start from grade 4 to grade 12. That's when we are doing coaching to the teachers, and then we do as well, we also do school-based experiments for grade 4 to grade 12, because we understand that government schools do not have facilities like laboratories, chemicals and stuff. Even if they do have, you'd find that to other schools, teachers are not well equipped to perform experiments, so we assist with those as well.
Well, the program to talk to school children about tech skills continues in Hluhluwe. Let's go to Gauteng for a bit, where there are always such programs that are assisting especially kids in under-resourced areas.
Today we are doing a handover of technology enablement in a number of schools, which is going to help the schools be able to live in the digital world. Well, our partnership with the department has been there for many years. We started in 2014, where we were bringing digitalization in schools. We already have close to 4,000 schools that we have digitized. Today we are handing over about 6 schools that we have now put in what we call a virtual classroom. So we're improving the technology based on what we have learned during the COVID time on how to usher virtual classroom that can be both hybrid, which means some kids could be online and some kids could physically be in the classroom, and the teacher has got all the enablement to be able to address both the virtual and the physical world in delivering education.
Been working for a long time with Vodacom on school connectivity, but also ICT solutions and virtual classrooms. So we are receiving the first, not even the first, because we started the pilot. We're now receiving a report on the progress, but also the gadgets to be used for your iClassrooms, remote teaching, but mainly the broad plan around connectivity and giving our learners gadgets to use in school. So it's a big project, but it's phased out. Unfortunately, we had started it before COVID-19. And that time we're trying to deal with teacher shortages where you don't have a good, maybe a teacher in the classroom, that you could have one teacher at a central point teaching different classes remotely. That's what we had started, even pre-COVID. But during COVID, we also then had to expand our concept to say you could even have a hybrid where teacher is teaching, there's a class, but there are also classrooms connected, but where still there are also learners who can be connecting. So it's really having a central place where you teach and you link a number of schools to that classroom, and learners are able to interact from where they are and where the teacher is. That's the remote teaching that we're talking about with Vodacom.
In the last 2 years, because of the problems we saw in the health sector because of the COVID-19 pandemic, many people came up with various e-health initiatives. But how sustainable are these in a post-COVID South Africa?
A new mother at the time of hard lockdowns imposed due to the coronavirus, Nigerian Loveth Metiboba opted to use telemedicine instead of taking her baby to hospital.
During this birthday, when it all started and I needed to take my baby to the hospital, so I thought of it, would there be a better idea? Instead of, because I was actually scared to go to the clinic. So I made a call through and they gave me this alternative. Oh, you can actually consult with a doctor if you have telemedicine. I said, why not? So I tried it, and since then I've never looked back.
South Africa too has had a growth in the number of healthcare mobile applications. These were mostly targeted to the medically insured few. We at Network covered the launch of one such app called Medivic in November 2020.
Medivic is a newly developed, South African-developed telemedicine mobile application, which literally bridges the gap between a patient and a practitioner geographically, whereby we're addressing the need and of convenience of you having to go to the doctor, standing in long queues, and also addressing the need of doctors' scheduling capabilities.
Unfortunately, Medivic has since closed shop for reasons unknown, which begs the question of whether these e-health solutions are practical for a country like South Africa with ongoing connectivity issues and a gaping digital divide.
When we're speaking around specifically virtual healthcare, it's not just video-based consultations, right? So there's what we call, synchronous and asynchronous telehealthcare consultations, where patients would be able to SMS or sort of speak to a doctor via text, and the doctor can respond immediately, or the doctor can respond a bit later. So that would be asynchronous, so text-based telehealthcare, but also telephonic-based telehealthcare. Because as a doctor, you can take a history and sort of get to a assessment of the patient, and perhaps also make a plan and give them a script over the telephone, because a lot of what you get is from a history-based perspective.
Gena Health, which literally means come in Sesotho, is yet another health app that has launched during this pandemic. They said that theirs is inclusive to all South Africans, no matter the socio-economic background.
We don't just connect you to a doctor, we connect you to either a nurse, a GP, or a mental health professional, depending on your need, whereas most other telemedicine apps will generally just connect you to a doctor. The second reason we're different is because we've lowered the cost of care so significantly that we can actually offer 3 free consults and then consults for 160 Rand thereafter. We've done this through a number of innovations on our side, and through this, thirdly, we're able then to talk to people who haven't been able to get access to healthcare in the past.
Though not all South Africans may not have the capacity to use such solutions, enthusiasts like Dr. Sivuile Madikana say that we will be seeing a growth in the telemedicine market going forward.
Going into the future, with all of the chronic diseases that we have in the country, there's a huge scope for us to assist more patients more quickly with their hypertension, with their diabetes, through a virtual form. So I'm really looking forward in terms of what the future has to hold for virtual healthcare in the country and the world as a whole.
It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. After the break, we chat about cyber breaches, as there's a report that places South Africa 6th in the world on density in cyber breaches. It's SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za and email. Welcome back. Now, companies and governments are losing billions to cybercrime, and it's increasing all over the world. We've also heard how cybercrime is also being used in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Recently, we attended a conference that's aiming to arm various organizations with information that they can use in order for them to mitigate against these issues that come up when there is cybercrime or when cyber criminals are after them.
These days, the cybercrime has increased, and especially organized crime is on there. And countries like South Africa is one of the prime targets for cybersecurity, cyber attackers. See, so that is, that's why we have this conference here today, so that we can discuss all the latest advancements in cybercrime and how that affects the industry in general.
See, now we are in the era where we are dealing with this cybersecurity crimes on a daily basis. Now we call it the organized cybercrime. It's an organization in itself. And we have seen here in South Africa and other African countries as well, where we are dealing with the cyber threats on a daily basis, right? So we obviously have to find a way that the hackers has evolved. So we also have to evolve in terms of securing our network perimeter and creating an operations who can deal with these kind of threats. So now companies like us who provide the managed services, security services, right? We are here to help you with to strategize your cybersecurity strategy, how to implement that, how do we mitigate you from the risk, and that's what we are here for.
So as you can see, that data is primary for everyone, not just the government, for everyone, also the government. So what is the prime goal for the cyber criminals? To extract data, and that is money in today's world. So that is why it's very important to get the cybersecurity in the concept of the companies and organizations and also the government, so that they can protect their data, the data of people It's very important.
Now, researchers at Surfshark say South Africa is now 6th in the world on the density of cybercrime that happens in the country. They say it's a massive rise from the year 2019. Even President Cyril Ramaphosa, you'd remember that we heard that his phone was hacked in the year 2021. Now, to discuss cybercrime a little bit more is Tepo Mokoena, who is the director at Into IT. Hello, Tepo, and thank you very much for being a part of our network. Maybe if you can start by explaining the kind of local industries that should be looking out to issues of cybercrime.
Banking, government services such as electricity, water supply, and telecoms. Usually in such cyber attacks, many small enterprise companies are impacted as a collateral damage. So it's irrespective of the size of an organization. In this today's digital age, everyone needs to do a long-term sustainable cybersecurity safeguarding.
What kind of changes should we expect in the near future? Obviously, it's going to grow.
Multiple cyber threats facing remote and hybrid workers, data breaches, ransomware attacks, and that is, I think those are the ones. What we call it, the DDO, which is the distributed denial of services, phishing, malware, ransomware, amongst many others. I mean, they fight, but those that I've mentioned are the key ones.
Over the last couple of weeks, we've observed the war or the conflicts between Russia and Ukraine. And some have said that cybercrime has also taken part there. Can you tell us a bit about that and what's been going on?
Ukraine is fighting a first hybrid war, where the war is fought simultaneously on the ground as well as in the digital world. There are many cyber threats emerging during the war, such as the denial of service attack, malware, intrusion, phishing, like I've explained.
And would you say that the conflict between Russia and Ukraine has plunged the world into perhaps a bigger cyber conflict?
2017 Russian cyber attack on Ukraine, Ukraine banking and on financial services later spilled over to the UK, to the US, France, Germany, and many other countries. And data wiping software were used in Ukraine, and those can spill over to the entire world. In recent times, the EU, the NATO, and many others have been part of the global security support to Ukraine. So any retaliation will have an impact beyond just one or two countries.
Here in Africa now, do you think governments are ready to deal with this?
Readiness are limited to individuals, organizations fighting cyber attack. Whereas what is needed is just a consolidated country, or rather a continent level of readiness to tackle cybersecurity.
All right, Tepo Mokoena, director at Into IT, thank you very much for being a part of our network. With that, let's take a quick break. It is the SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Here's what else took place in the rest of the world in the technology space.
Hitch, a French ride-hailing app, has launched in Senegal, one of two such apps to arrive in recent months to test the largely untapped market. Dakar residents like Maguette Mbaye use Hitch, which entered the market in January. It's the second ride-hailing app launched in Senegal in recent months after Yango, which is owned by Russian tech giant Yandex. Hitch country manager Malik Diagni says Africa as a whole is a young continent where connectivity is very high.
Between sending money to a relative who is in another city or talking via WhatsApp, Facebook, you can see that people are connected 24 hours a day. Each is coming into the digital world to modernize transport.
A few hundred taxi drivers have signed up to Hitch and Yango, but others are unimpressed. And now in the USA. Mercedes-Benz AG won't cut spending on future electric vehicles even as it copes with supply chain cost pressures exacerbated by the Russian-Ukraine conflict.
Opening up this battery plant here in Alabama today is a big step in our electrification strategy. And in fact, you can see last year we announced that we think electrification is going to come faster. So we intend to ramp up faster and be ready by the end of this decade to go all electric in markets where the market conditions allow. So we're now turning our plants around the world into flexible production facilities.
Rocketing petrol prices since Russia's invasion of Ukraine has amplified the challenges for established automakers that still rely on fossil fuel-powered vehicles for profits. And soaring prices for materials used in EV batteries like nickel, heavily mined in Russia, have also hurt the industry. Now in Japan. An automated system with a humanoid robot that can help package noodles was displayed at a recent Tokyo Technology exhibition as a solution for food manufacturers struggling with labor shortage. The 1.5-meter tall robot Foodly, developed by Japanese robot developer RT, has an image recognition system to capture the food that is in front of them. The robot with its fork-like hands then picks up the mock noodles and places it on the blue conveyor belt that also works as a scale developed by Yamato Scale. The belt will weigh the noodles to be packaged into the black containers.
The Daily Sun has dropped its readership by over 89% in the last decade. This was once a massive giant in newspapers. So this week, our Twitter poll is asking you if you still read newspapers, as we are finding out about the rise of digital platforms. And that's it. That's all we have for you. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's News Network at sabc.co.za on email. From me, it's Phumelele Zondi and the rest of the team right here in Hluhluwe. Have a good one. Bye-bye.